Baltany has just released a new watch and I've been able to get hands-on with it and I'm going to be sharing it with you today. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And today I'm talking about my first ever Baltany watch. And I have to admit, the Baltany brand has grabbed my attention. And when I say grabbed, I almost mean forced to be seen, because Baltany gets so much attention online. And not just from reviewers like me that are talking about watches that they're sort of trying to show you, but from the customers of the brand themselves. Everybody seems to have a real positive view of this brand. They say that they are really nice looking, that the quality is fantastic, and that they are affordable. So when Baltany reached out to me and said, hey, we've got a new bronze Dirty Dozen watch, a mechanical version of it. Would you like to have that in your collection? Would you like to share it with your viewers? I said, yes, please, Baltany. That would be fantastic. But because of that, you would have seen that this video is sponsored by Baltany. Baltany has supplied this watch to me, so I get to own it, I get to wear it, and I get to share my experiences with it with you guys. And that's what I intend to do today. But I'm also going to leave links to the Baltany website down below and some affiliate links to this particular watch from the Aliexpress store if you prefer to buy it from them. Now this watch is $179 US, which I actually think is really well priced. It is really well priced for a mechanical watch made from bronze that looks this good and that the quality is this good. And I want to show you why I think that pricing is actually fairly reasonable. Let's flip the camera around now and let's check out my first ever Baltany. So when Baltany reached out to me and offered me this bronze pilot watch, the B2058, which they call the Dirty Dozen, but for me it feels more like a bit of a pilot's watch, but I guess it is that sort of field watch aesthetics as well. I got so excited because this is a watch that I think looks absolutely fantastic, and I've been quite enjoying bronze watches recently. I don't want lots of them in my collection, but I certainly want one or two, and this could certainly easily be one of those bronze watches in my collection. The packaging it comes in also is pretty good. It comes with a bit of information about the watch, warranty card, polishing cloth, little tool, but it's actually just a nice size, sort of hand size case. So that's always appreciated. Now, most of the Baltany watches that I've seen and that have been particularly popular recently that I've seen online have been quartz watches. This one is a mechanical watch. This one contains a hand-wind only mechanical Seagull ST3620, which really fits in with this theme of watch to me. I think it sort of suits it better than a quartz movement and even more than an automatic mechanical movement. It also has a nice sapphire crystal, which is quite cool. It has a really nice sort of double dome to it. When you look nice and closely at the actual dial itself, you can see it's relatively simple. It is sort of what we expect from this sort of style of watch. It's all printed. All the numbers are white. That railway track are also white, but there's also some photina sort of lume, and that matches in with the hands too. Let's have a quick look at the lume, because it is okay lume. It's not brilliant lume, but I think it's perfectly acceptable at a watch at this sort of price. But what actually stands out to me is two things. Firstly, the hands are a gilt, which I don't think completely suits this watch. I don't think it stands out as a negative feature. It's just if you look really closely, you sort of know that obviously it's bronze, it's black with white, and then you have these sort of polished gilt hands, which doesn't quite fit. It would have been nice to have bronze hands or even silver, I think. But what makes up for that is this sub-second dial. Most watches that I've seen that are in this more affordable sort of range, especially from Aliexpress, when you look at sub-seconds, look at the hands of them, they end up being these tiny little stumpy silver hands. This one, not at all. Firstly, it's white, which I think suits better, and it's nice and thin and long. You can see it reaches all the way out to that second sub track, which is cool. That's all printed on as well. So everything's printed, including the arrow, including Baltany. And although they are sort of trying to go for more of a vintage style watch, it's not really vintage proportions, because the case of this one is 42 millimeters. The thickness of the watch is 13 millimeters. The lug to lug is 50.5 millimeters. Lug width is 20, and it's 91 grams on this supplied strap, and it's quite a good strap. It is complete, full 100% leather. You can smell it. It feels like it. You can even see it when you look on the edge there, because it's sort of a rough edge, which I actually quite like on this style of watch. Really good stitching. It does say genuine leather, and unlike a lot of straps that you see that have genuine leather, which have a little thin strip of leather, this one is actually genuine leather. Back of the watch case, you can see, is very, very simple. Nothing really to discuss there or talk about there. The case itself, all bronze, as I've mentioned a number of times, but it has a rather interesting finish to it. It's kind of like a matte finish. It's not bead blasted, it's not brushed, it's not polished. It just has an almost sort of a natural feel to it. And it has a really nice soft feel to it as well. And I think that's actually really good for bronze because this is obviously going to patina with age, and I think it'll end up looking really good. This manual wind movement, as I mentioned, is the Seagull ST360. No ghost position, so it goes straight out into the set the time position, and as you can see, it does not hack. Now, it is always really interesting to see different movements and how they perform. I'm not sure what the lift angle of this particular movement is, so I'm just going to set it to 52 and see how it is performing on my time grapher. So is there anybody out there that would not be happy with those results? Because for a hand-winding mechanical Seagull movement, it's running perfectly at 0 seconds per day. Very nice, healthy amplitude, almost 0 beat error, and running at 21,600 vibrations per hour. What a great set of figures. I've been watching these figures a little bit as well, and they have been moving sort of plus or minus 2 seconds, but I think those figures are absolutely incredible. And on wrist, I really like it. I really enjoy it. This sort of size of watch is generally a little bit big depending on the style. On this sort of style, I actually quite like the slightly larger sort of feel of it on wrist. As long as it has enough curvature, which it does, so it sits down on wrist really nicely. This sort of pilot style, World War II style, trench watch style, or whatever they want to call it, this dirty dozen sort of style, whatever they're trying to go for, to me actually suits this sort of size, even on my sort of medium 17 centimeter or around about 6 3/4 inch wrist. Oh yeah, sits down nice and feels nice on wrist as well. Has a really nice balanced feel, and I really quite like this strap, so it is very comfortable. And even though it actually is quite thick and quite sort of heavy, it conforms to wrist really quickly and very easily. So what do I like about this one? What don't I like about it? And what would I change? Well, there's a couple of visual things that I really like. That sub-second hand and sub-second registry is really good. I really like that it is a nice thin white hand. And as I mentioned earlier, most of the time, especially on Aliexpress watches, they don't tend to use a nice small second hand. They use a stumpy silver thing, and it doesn't really look good normally. This time they've actually used the correct hand, and I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I think the overall looks of this watch is absolutely brilliant, and I find it very comfortable to wear, which is really nice. But there is a couple of things that I probably don't like. I mentioned about these gilt polished hands, and although it doesn't really stand out because it has that sort of faux tina in the middle, if you start to concentrate on it a little bit, it sort of starts to sort of think, well, it's more like I would like to change that. And that is the main thing that I would change if I was to have the opportunity to do something to this watch. Change those hands. I like the style of them, but I think silver would be better, possibly even white. I'd have to see it in a couple of different variations, but I'm not sure if gold is the right sort of color. It'd be awesome to see them as bronze as well. But let's talk about the price of this watch, because I think the price of it is really good, because as you just saw, that movement is performing really well. It's a really nice style of watch. It's actually quite a popular style at the moment. And some of these watches are getting a little bit expensive in this style. So to get a brand from Baltany, which is quite respected in this sort of space, I guess, from AliExpress, to get something that looks like this, to get bronze, to get a movement that's performing like that, I think you're doing pretty well for that sort of price. And guys, if you enjoyed this review, I would love for you to watch some of my others, maybe even these two.